Welcome in, everybody. I am Dan Wiederer alongside my colleague, Brad Biggs from the Chicago Tribune. We are thrilled today to be joined by Bears coach, Matt Nagy. Matt, you sat down with us a year ago at the Scouting Combine in Indianapolis, and I can say with great confidence that that was the last time I did an in-person interview with anybody. How you been?
I'm doing great, Dan. Yeah, it's crazy where things have gone in this past year, and it's, I know I certainly miss being there at that combine and seeing everybody, and it's so different. But we're learning in these times, and but at least we're still able to do this, which is good.
Never thought I'd miss the hallways of the Indianapolis Convention Center as much as I do, but no doubt about that.
No, I hear you, man. You and Brad getting your Starbucks there, hanging out, getting some coffee, and doing. Maybe it's not Starbucks, but it's coffee, and you guys are hanging out and scoping us out. But I know you guys have a good time.
No doubt about it. So when we talked to you in the group setting the other day, you seemed pretty energized and enthused about some of the things that are going on behind the curtain as you guys look to reboot for 2021, and specifically with the scheme evaluations that you're in the thick of right now with your offense. What's exciting you about going through that process every morning, and what are you learning and finding illuminating from that?
Yeah, so I would say a few things, and a lot of times when you go through these scheme evals, you want to be able to be that top 10 offense. For us, when I talk about us, I'm talking about our offense, because those are the meetings I'm in, and when you don't have that top 10 offense, and you have some of the struggles that we had, what you want to do is you want to kind of figure out the whys. And so situational football, whether it's third down, whether it's red zone, whether it's, for instance, when you're in empty, is it a protection? There's just so much stuff that goes on throughout the year that sometimes we say you can get caught in the trees and you don't really know the exact whys. Now we're able to really get into that and see, are there common denominators? And a lot of times as we see this, whether it's the coaching side, whether it's execution and the productivity by the players, schematically, whatever it is, this is usually the time where we say, okay, we need to fix this and do this better. And there are certainly a lot of times too where you see some things you do well and you say, we got to do more of this. But every team is different every year. And so when you start digging into the personnel side, you want to work towards your players' strengths. And that's kind of what we're doing now.
How do you walk the tightrope of wanting to start as soon as possible with detailed planning for a potentially new quarterback while being patient, knowing you may have to wait for an option you deem to be the best one?
Sure. No, that's a good question, Brad. So having a few new coaches on this staff, what this does every year, and this will be our fourth year going into this, is it allows us to step back regardless of who's starting at any position and just say, okay, schematically, with the way that defenses change, the way that defenses adapt to what they think you do, are we doing the best thing possible? Then the next step is probably what you're asking is, okay, at the quarterback position, what is that quarterback's strengths? And then how do defenses see that quarterback? Obviously, last year with having two different style quarterbacks in Nick and Mitchell, we saw different defenses. And so we take that into consideration as we're watching our scheme evaluation. And then we say, okay, in 2021, what do we want to do? Well, with trying to figure out here as we move forward with how everything's going to go at a lot of different positions, we say, okay, what do we want our identity to be? And I think now that we have this library that y'all have heard me talk about for years now, we know what our strengths and weaknesses are with a lot of players. We thought that we got some young guys, specifically I talk about a guy like Mooney and a guy like Cole Kmet and a guy like Sam Mustipher, right? Bar some of these younger guys that have really stepped up and helped us out in 2020. Now, how can we accentuate their strengths? And that's kind of big picture how we do it. And then all the other positions, in particular, you asking quarterback, that'll all come here as we go, day by day, week by week.
Matt, is there a challenge with that, with the quarterback position not certain right now, to leaving yourself open-minded to how that vision and that identity will kind of evolve?
It would be a challenge if we made it one, but we go into it kind of open-minded, just understanding that, okay, when we do know how everything is going to settle and where it's going to go, now we go ahead and we start saying, okay, well, we got to do more of this and less of that. And then, that's kind of the fun part in the off season. And then you also take into consideration any new tools that you could get in the draft with other players. And you start fresh. You start fresh in training camp.
There are a ton of reasons to want Allen Robinson on your roster. Is one of them the fact that his presence makes your team more attractive to quarterbacks considering where they may want to play in 2021 and beyond?
Well, I would say this, number one, with Allen is when we go through these scheme evals every year and you see the great things that he has done for us in a lot of different aspects, whether it is situational with third down, whether it's in the red zone, whether it's a 1st and 10 play, we just want to get a good completion. When you talk to different players across the league, you always want to be able to have a guy like Allen that can play the way he plays at big time times in the season. And then you say, okay, well, what does he do as a person as well? And how is he in practice and in meetings? And we love how he is that way. So, for us, it's exciting. And for me on the coaching side of it, I'm just proud of the way that, Mike Furry has coached him. I'm proud of the way that Allen has accepted coaching, and it's really been a fun 3 years. So we're looking forward to more.
Matt, obviously with everything on the table at that quarterback position, you guys will be doing your due diligence on the draft class and the quarterback draft class that's coming out. Obviously 4 years ago, you were part of that process in Kansas City when the Chiefs hit the grand slam with Patrick Mahomes. I'm curious from a personal standpoint, when the light went on for you with Patrick and what it was that sort of made it click and you said, okay, this guy's got something here that could be really special in this league.
Sure. And you said the key word there, the process. That wasn't something that happened overnight. And there was a lot of great quarterbacks in that draft class that it was really fun to be able to say, okay, what are the whys of why each quarterback can succeed? If you go back to that draft class, everybody can remember, right? A few things. These were the 3 main topics with those 3 quarterbacks coming out with Mitchell, Deshaun, and Patrick. With Mitchell, right, it was all about, well, he only played 13 games. He had 1 year of college, right? But loved his leadership skills, loved the stuff he did on the field. With Sean, it was all about, man, he played in big time games. He did a lot of great things in a lot of big time moments. And then with Patrick, see, there was a lot of people that were extremely concerned about the conference that he was in, and where he was. So I think the biggest hurdle at that time for a lot of people was, can he transfer what he did, at Texas Tech to the NFL game? And there is risk involved with that. But we just felt like at that point in time, whichever way it was going to go, we felt confident with that. And obviously a lot of people involved in that process. And again, a lot of people felt very strongly about Mitchell, as we did too, along with Deshaun and Patrick. So it's a good quarterback draft class for sure.
When you pull up your notes, whether it's binders or computer files or whatever from 2017, what are things that you learned during that process now that are applicable now in your role as a head coach, where you can say, oh, this really worked well in terms of how we tested a quarterback or how we got to know his wiring and DNA a little better?
Yeah. So what we did was we were able to spend an inordinate amount of time there was about 6 guys that we looked at, Dan. And we brought them in, and without getting into a lot of the details of what went on in that meeting, we spent a good 6 to 7 hours with each of those quarterbacks. And then what you're able to do is you keep the same template for each of those guys, and you're able to kind of compare where they're at. Now, does that mean that they're going to be a successful NFL quarterback because of the way you did this process? And no, I mean, everyone's a little bit different. How much value and stock you put into the video part, how much value and stock you put into meeting them in person. What do they do up on the board? Very similar to what you see with Coach Gruden when he had the quarterbacks coming in. It was similar to that, and seeing how much they can retain. What is their personality like, being in a room with 3 other coaches and talking ball? How do they handle tough questions? What are their study habits like? And then letting them tell us about where they came from and how they work and what their strengths and weaknesses are. And then you got to go ahead and I think the people involved got to all talk through the whys. And for me to learn that process through Coach Reed and be a part of that, that was a big one for us. That it took a lot of time, a ton of research on tape, a ton. And it wasn't something that just happened in a couple of weeks. It took a while.
You mentioned Darnell Mooney. What's the logical next step for him after a 61 catch rookie season? I've talked to some people that think he could learn to track the deep ball a little bit better. Talk us through the logical next steps for him as he goes into year 2.
More, and more. I mean, this kid is the real deal. I'm serious. You want to talk about an exciting player that can, I mean, I'm just so blown away at the things that this kid does, coming in here with no off season, coming into training camp, playing that first game against Detroit and showing us that the lights weren't too bright for him. Amazed at his mental ability to handle this offense from the get-go, to put it into action, to make big plays, and learning through a guy like Allen Robinson and understanding, okay, this guy's an exceptional mentor. How do I follow him? How do I do what he does? And it's exciting as a coach because he has a rare element of speed combined with route running, hands, and passion and commitment. So you just take all that and you say, my gosh, we got this guy in the 5th round. Are you kidding me? You know what I mean? Like, that's a credit to Ryan and our personnel and our coaching staff to being able to see that and understand that. And we that's when you hit on guys like that in the 5th round. This guy, guys, I've been around Tyreek Hill, right? Tyreek Hill. I said, now I'm saying Tariq. Before, when I got here, it was Tyreek. So I've been around Tyreek Hill, right? I've been around a young Deshaun Jackson in Philadelphia. I'm just going to tell you right now that this guy is a complete package, and compares right there with he's going to have the ability in time to be comparable to those, right? It would be unfair to say he's those guys now, but he has a very high ceiling, and that's exciting as a coach.
The offensive line was significantly better the final third of the season, maybe final half of the season. Sam Mustipher, maybe the best story of 2020 for you, considering where he came from. Does he enter the offseason atop the depth chart at center? Can James slide in at right guard? Because I thought Cody played really well at left guard. And then I'm curious if Alex Bars could be in competition at right tackle.
Yeah, all right on, Brad. I think when you get opportunities like those guys had, and the way that they came in and played those 6, 7, 8 games at the end of the year, things really got calm. And when I say that, you talk about a guy like you just said, Sam Mustipher. Here's a kid that all he needed was a chance. And when you give him a chance, he's not going to let it slide or slip by. And he did that. And he proved to us that he is more than capable of being a starting center in the NFL. There's so many things that people don't know about Sam Mustipher that I could sit on this call for a while and talk about his positive qualities. But the number one thing that he brings is a leadership where he's just a multiplier, and in such a great way. The stage wasn't too big for him. The players on that line loved him. The quarterbacks, the other guys in the huddle loved him. And I think so when you say that going into this year, I mean, absolutely, to be coming in as the center and be competing on every single play, helping guys out, doing whatever he can do, having a guy like James Daniels who has flexibility. But yes, as a right guard. Cody did a great job playing left guard. It seems like he's a little bit more comfortable there, and there's a fit. All that stuff takes a little bit of time with the communication process. And Alex Bars, like you said, what a great job coming in here and just bringing a fighter mentality that, listen, every single play, we're coming at you. And we're going to give it 110% all the time. You always see them finishing on plays. And for us as coaches and personnel, that part's really cool to have and exciting to see young guys like that take off.
Matt, on
could
defense,
Bars be in the mix at right tackle?
What's that again? Yeah, I think there's a possibility.
Right
I think the thing, Brad, with Alex is that he brings so much versatility. I mean, the guy played center for us too, so anytime you have a guy like Alex that can play all the different types of positions, we'll sit down, we'll talk. we'll go through all that. We'll see where things take us as we move forward here. But the versatility and flexibility that he has is a huge advantage for him.
Matt, defensively, obviously you're making some change at the top with Sean coming in as your coordinator. It's obviously been well documented that the splash plays the last 2 years, the sacks and the takeaways have gone down from where they were when you guys were winning big in 2018. I'm curious what you see in Sean's strengths as a coach and his vision as a coordinator that gives you confidence that he can get those numbers back up to an elite level.
Absolutely. Yeah. So being able to see everybody that knows Sean, I know you guys know Sean really well. Like the one thing is he always has a plan. And so when you have a plan, you got to be able to teach that plan. He's an excellent teacher. He makes things simple for guys to be able to play fast. He has full conviction in what he's teaching, but then he also too is humble enough to realize that he might not have all the answers. And there might be some things that he has to experiment with different calls, and it'll be his first time calling a game in week one. So there'll be some of that, but this Sean's been doing this a long time. He's been around a lot of great defensive coordinators. I love the fact that he's taken all of these different guys that he's learned from and kind of making it his own. That's what's cool to me, is that you get to put your own spin on it. The players love him. They trust him. They believe in him. And so like just every day we're in here at the office and I talk to him, I love listening to him tell me how great the meetings are going with the staff. I love there's a lot of listening that he does too, which is, I think, a really great quality and trait that some coaches don't have. And he has that. He listens and he understands and wants other people's advice. So it's going to be exciting to be able to see what he does with those guys.
When they're doing the scheme evaluation on defense and you look at Robert Quinn and you say, hey, we want to unlock this guy, I'm not sure there's much that changes from winning off the edge from one scheme to the other. If you tweak it a little bit, how do you get a guy like him going? Because he's been a super productive pass rusher for a huge part of his career.
Yeah, without a doubt. We have to get Robert going, and we will. And trust me, there's no one that wants to get Robert going more than Robert. He really is excited to get back at it this year and do some things. And so for us, we realize, and we talk. I talk to Ryan. We as coaches talk to the personnel, to the other coaches. We say, listen, here's where we're at with these guys on defense. We got to make sure that we're going to get the production from them to be able to go get that quarterback. Now, how we do it, that's going to be now up to Sean. How are we going to get to that point? The players got to, on their end, got to do their part as well in making sure that, whatever it is, they're communicating if they like something or don't like something. So I think it's stating the obvious that with Robert coming into his second year here, it'll be really important for him to get off to a fast start. We're going to help him with that, but I know that he's super hungry, and that's really all we can ask for. And it's going to have to be the other guys too on the defensive side of the ball. It's everybody there helping each other out. So he's going to be ready.
There's still plenty more from our interview with Matt Nagy. Please make sure to check out part 2, where Matt shares his true reaction to the 8-9 finish of 2020 and the Bears wild card round playoff loss to the Saints. He'll talk a little bit more about the culture at Hallis Hall and how the Bears can turn that into fuel rather than just an airbag that helps them absorb crashes like the 6-game losing streak of last year. And he'll talk a little bit about the blueprint that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers left behind with their victory in this past Super Bowl. Check that out. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Don't forget to hit the like button. We'll talk to you soon.